I'm Lawrence Steele. I got first place at the Antwerp WCQ on 1st of November. I played Memento. And let's just get right into it. So, first off, 3 Dark Blades. You can on summon, pop Spell Trap, don't use that effect. Usually. And as an addition, you can destroy a Memento to summon a level 3 or lower Memento from your deck. And you always kind of have to talk about this card when you're talking about Dark Blades. 3 Memento Anguish. On summon, searches a Memento monster, any monster. And it also has an ignition effect to destroy Memento and then revive a Memento with a lower level, with a level 3 or lower from the graveyard. So in prior builds, especially the one where I maxed out on Fiendsmith Engraver, I would often cut this to 2 or sometimes even 1, just because with the 3 engravers, like, you didn't really need that many normal summons. You didn't rely on stuff like Memento Fusion being an extender. But there's 2 things that have changed. 1, Engraver is not a good extender in this format because of Fuel Loss. And Darblade is strictly worse into Fuel Loss, although not by much. It just gives them an extra draw. I still think you max out on Darblade no matter what. But also, just because of the way this version of the deck is built, you kind of just want to max out on all your good names, because you really just want to get playing, period. But yeah, wouldn't change this. Then we have Datsun Toshigo. Obviously, I always play this at 3, the horse. When you have no face-up monsters other than Mementos, you can special summon this card. And then he can destroy a Memento monster on the field and send Mementos from deck to graveyards until their level matches the level of the destroyed monster. You can go lower, so if he pops himself, you can send up to level 4. But yeah, like 4 level 1s, 2 level 2s, that kind of stuff. This is maybe the most infamous card of the deck. Even people who don't know Memento are terrified of this card, and a common thing you'll see is just hand trap the horse. But yeah, whenever you can start your plays with this, you just always feel good, because there's so much pressure, but at the same time, it's actually not that necessary if you have a normal summon. But yeah, goes without saying. And then we're off to the one-offs. Combined Creation. Kind of the boss monster of the deck, but he's more so really a way of just like managing your engine. He can summon himself by shuffling 5 back. It's not an activate effect, it's summoning procedure, which is actually pretty relevant. And if he's alone, he can attack every monster your opponent controls once each. And on a soft once per turn, when your opponent activates card or effect, you can summon a Memento from your hand or graveyard. You always try to end on this, because there's like a few of your better effects that are enabled by him. And also just this, like, he does exert a lot more pressure than you would think for a monster that on its own is effectively a vanilla. But also QCR. Moving on. 1 Memento Goblin. This is technically another normal summon, and it's better. It's better than I used to think it was. Like, you can actually more or less get the full board, and if you have like any extra name in your hand, it's maybe one of the better even. You can play 2 of this if you are on the Goblin quickly, like I am. I chose not to. It's a 3.5% chance to open both of them in 5 cards in like in a 40 card main deck. I thought it wasn't worth it, and also I couldn't find my second Goblin. Then Garrick. If you start playing this deck, you will adore and hate this card. You will see this in your hand. It is one of the more annoying cards to draw, but it's usually manageable if your engine gets rolling at all. If it's sent to the graveyard by a Memento monster effect, it reborns itself, and then on summon you can target any Memento card in your graveyard and add it back. Obviously, extremely important, like, when this archetype first came out and this card didn't exist yet, like, the archetype just didn't make sense. Then the new guy from Rage of the Abyss, Memento, Mementotlan, like here, I'm just going to call all of these Mementos. If it's normal special summoned, you can activate it so that For the rest of the turn, your level 9 or higher mementos can attack directly, which coincidentally means that if you have Creation King and Combined Creation, that is exactly 8,000 damage. Which, it seems like a bit of a gimmick, but it actually means that Chaos Angel is not a win con against your deck like it has been against quite a few other decks the last few formats, funnily enough. But yeah, no, the main reason that you play this guy is his other two effects. If he is destroyed by card effect, you can target a memento in your graveyard or banished and add it back, like any memento, like spell, monster. This means that a lot of the checkmate situations you used to be in, like your Combined Creation being banished, or just being run out of resources just because you're out of Creation Kings in some way, just doesn't happen anymore. It also just means that Memento Fusion being in rotation at all just almost always represents both quick plays, which is huge for just general play, efficient play. And on top of that, he also has an effect. If he's in the graveyard and a Memento monster in the hand or field is destroyed, he can special summon himself, which makes link climbing a lot easier, which is kind of crazy to say if you've played this deck from Legacy of Destruction, where it would just spin its wheels forever without actually generating bodies, but now you just have more link material than you know what to do with. If you're not on this card, run it for sure. Like, it's extremely transformative for the deck. Then, Sleepy. If during the turn that a monster in your possession was destroyed by card effect, noteworthy possession, which also means stuff in your deck, stuff in your stuff in your hand, etc. You can just summon this guy as a quick effect during any phase, and then on summon, he performs a fusion summon for a Memento monster with the same rules as Polymerization, using hand or field. He notably does not have to use himself, which comes up a lot. And on top of that, if he is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can send any Memento card from your deck to the graveyard. I think this is arguably the most important card to learn how to use well. Like, there's just a titanic difference between Memento players who use this card well and who don't use it well. Just, I don't really know how to put it into words, but the moment it gets popped at all, like, just everything goes out of control and hand traps feel like they just don't matter. Some people play two of this. I think that's wrong. This card only does something if you're playing. So, yeah, play one. Then, Mace. So, as an ignition on the field, you can pop a Memento to search any Memento cards. And you can, if you have a Combined Creation on your field, you can discard this as a quick effect during your opponent's main phase to steal one of their monsters until the end phase. The interruption is obviously insane, but I have actually been souring a bit on this card as a part of the engine, because the way I do my combos now, I do actually value link material quite a bit, and any line where you go through Mace, you actually end up on less link material, because Mace on its own doesn't generate bodies on the field. Yeah, it is still very useful to be able to search anything in a pinch. This card is still combo. It's a worse version of it, but it does work. But yeah, obviously you would never play more than one. Also, if you're on Herald stuff, this is the fairy that you discard for it. Then, my boy that I'm very happy I'm playing again, Memento Horn Dragon. If you have 3 or more Memento monsters with different names in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. This is not an activated effect. And if it is destroyed from the field by card effect, you can target 3 face-up cards on the field, including a Memento card you control, destroy them. In this version, the main reason I'm playing him in this version is I am on Cross Sheep and Nightmare Griffin, and he makes a lot of those lines a lot easier. But on top of that, he also gives like an additional bit of layering to your boards, because on his own he is a pretty powerful interruption. Usually, the sequence goes like Combined Creation is on field. Your opponent activates something. So then you summon this guy. This guy pops himself to pop something of your opponent. Then the field spell revives this guy. Bone Party pops this. Summon Anguish. And then he pops Anguish into 2 cards, and then Anguish searches something. But yeah, he is mainly just, he makes a lot of the combos like a lot easier, and certain decks just cannot deal with his Icarus attack effect. Yeah, didn't play this guy in Fiendsmith, missed him a lot. Very happy I'm on him again. Then that was it for the Memento monsters. Now we're on to the spells. Bone Party. This card, I might be saying this about like so many cards in the deck, but this might be the best card in the deck. It's definitely the card that is going to make people hate this deck. So it's basically just during any phase, destroy a Memento in hand or field, and then you can either add a Memento with a different name or special summon it in defense. And the fact that this adds comes up a lot, especially now with Full Loss in the format, because there are actually lines where you really just like a lot of the time the fact that it pops is more important than what it summons. And just being able to do, like, for example, Bone Party on, let's say, Sleepy, and just adding Horn Dragon, you still get the extra body effectively, but you also got the pop to go through. The current combos also, you pretty much always go through this. Like, the way I used to play it, Bone Party often was just kind of like a nice to have bonus if I had like a lot of redundancy, but no, you always get to it. It's always a part of the end boards. Obviously, always play a tree. And then we have Bootleg Bone Party. Some people aren't too of this. I was on tree. No real reason beyond vibes and the card to just win the games. It reads tribute a monster, any monster, and then you can special summon a goblin monster from your deck, but it cannot attack this turn. And then it has another effect that only really applies if you play Goblin Exeases. So yeah, like I said, this is basically just extra copies of Bone Party. On exactly Anguish, this is technically better. Because since it tributes for cost, the Anguish is no longer on the field when the chain resolves, which means she can dodge stuff like Imperm. Because in the case of Bone Party, if your opponent has Imperm Ash, they Imperm Anguish, you chain Bone Party, and then they Ash it, nothing goes through. If you chain this and they Ash this, this effect doesn't go through, but Anguish is off field, so you still get a Search, you still get Tatsu, and you still get to play even though your opponent wasted Imperm Ash, although there's probably a pretty good argument that your opponent should not chain Ash to this. But yeah, you can play 2 Goblin, you can play 2 Goblins, so this and Goblin together in hand aren't a brick as often, and Goblin is a valid normal summon, but yeah, I already explained my reasoning earlier for why I didn't do it. But I wouldn't hate it if you did too. Then Memento Fusion. Playing at 3 now, I used to play it at 2, but yeah, I have come around to the idea that you should probably play Memento pretty engine heavy, at least the pure variant, because you really just want to start playing, period. Its effect itself is during the main phase, you can fusion summon 1 fusion monster from your extra deck. This is not restricted to Mementos, you just have to use a Memento monster as material. And if a monster in your possession, any monster, doesn't have to be a Memento, was destroyed by card effect this turn, you can also use Memento monsters from your graveyard by shuffling them back into the deck or extra deck. And yeah, it's a quick play, so it's kind of a Chimera Fusion, although it is a hard once per turn. And then also, during the main phase, if it's in the graveyard, you can just banish it, destroy any monster you control, like, doesn't have to be a Memento, to add any Memento spell trap from your deck to your hand. Notably, this does not exclude itself. This can search itself, and I'm kind of surprised how little people wins at this. This is a very rare thing for a card to be able to do. But yeah, this card is very, very, very pushed. It's one of the reasons why Darkblade First is often a lot better than Anguish First, because just the moment anything gets popped, this getting turned on is quite insane. The fact that you can summon basically anything with this also gives you like a lot of flexible options. A lot of people have been on Guardian Chimera. There's stuff like Azamina Solar Sikton that you can summon with this, which is the Azamina fusion that just sends a card on summon. I do tend to side out one of these going second, because realistically, this isn't really the extender that's going to help you push through boards most of the time, because you need this card, and then you need 2 Memento monster names at least to be able to start playing. But yeah, I've definitely come around to playing 3 of this. Then we have Memento Mictlan. Field spell 1-off. If your Memento monster battles, your opponent cannot activate any spell or trap effects until the end of the damage step. Then, if a monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target one of those monsters and special summon a Memento with a lower level from your hand or graveyard. Keep in mind that it can summon from hand. A lot of people forget this. And then during the end phase, you can target a Memento spell trap in your graveyard and set it. So this card doesn't do anything on its own, but it is extremely important for a grind. It's extremely important for link climbing. And there's a lot of very funny scenarios, like your opponent gives you a lava golem, it gets popped somehow, and then you can just summon something level 8 or lower from your graveyard or hand. Very funny. And also, did you know your opponent cannot magical cylinder you if you attack with a Memento when this is up? Yeah, obviously I always play it. And then for the last engine cards, Fiendsmith Engraver, I chose to be on one for the Fuelos reasons I mentioned beforehand. You still really do want to play this, because in most of the lines where you have a normal summon starter and any other name, you get to make Caesar before you commit to Memento Fusion, which checks both Nibiru and Retaliating Sea. Like, Nibiru isn't too big of a problem, but Retaliating Sea can be devastating if you use your fusion too early. And also, it just has, we're always going to be playing Fiendsmith Sequence because of a package that I'll mention later. So yeah, might as well. So that's the engine, 27 cards. Now let's move on to the non-engine. So 3 Imperm, 3 Ash. These were the only hand traps I was playing in main. Ash mainly because I feel like this format you can actually use Ash pretty intelligently. You can cut off specific parts of the opponent's engine that you just don't want to deal with. Like if you really just don't want to deal with Ilya Sylvia, just blanking the Deception search with Ash is usually fine. Imperm I was actually the closest to cutting, but still I do like having D6 when a Fool Loss resolves. It is also a kind of semi a breaker, so you can just kind of choose like, I don't want to play through this part of the board, so I'm going to Imperm it. But yeah. Obviously on a full hand trap approach, you play these always. Then 3 Fool Loss. Even though I don't really have good discard outlets other than Nightmare Griffin in this deck, the discard steals so many games. It's like you really just have to play it. Anyway, hope you have 400 euros. And then Super Poly. This was a bit of a call out. This list was pretty targeted at the people that I expected were coming to this regional, which is, you know, the benefit of like smaller regionals and just knowing people in the scene. But I will say it's pleasantly surprised and disappointed me at the same time. Because the way this card performed, it wasn't just about, oh, this is the board, I'm gonna wipe it clean in one go. It was often a card that just kind of came up while being on the play. Like, versus Fire King, their board often isn't susceptible to this outside of their weaker hands at the start, but at some point you will have stuff like Ambloale and Arvata on the field. You will have, you know, like you will be able to just turn off a lot at once later on when your opponent has like gone through their Azamina stuff. And I'll talk more about the specific targets when I'm going over the extra deck, but also notable, this is basically an extender in a pinch, because you only have 2 ways to fuse in this deck usually in Engine, and they're both hard once per turns, and you really want to be able to go through both fusions in one turn usually, so this does actually come up, and yeah. Just a very flexible card, honestly. Like, I was pleasantly surprised by the way it performed. And then the last non-engine, Called By. There's a lot of Shifter in the format, there's Ultimate Charmies in the format, and you actually hit quite a bit of engine with it, with Phantom of Yubel and Azamina Ilya Sylvia. Yeah, that's the main deck. not much I would change overall. I think like the main thing would be non-engine and maybe 2 goblin. Then let's go over the extra deck. So first off, the Memento fusions. Creation King. I still remember the day this card was announced and they mistranslated it as Sending 5. But yeah, on a Fusion Summon, this sends 3 Memento cards from deck or extra deck to graveyards, which does not exclude itself. And then it has a quick effect to target Memento monsters on the field and that many cards your opponent controls to destroy them. Notably, it cannot use those first 2 effects I just mentioned in the same chain, which means it cannot, when it's dumping, it cannot protect the cell by like popping the Emperor or anything. Do keep that in mind. And yeah, if you're playing against Memento, know that you're not playing into anything other than Bone Party or whatever when they're doing this. And then it finally has an effect in the graveyard to banish itself and then search the Memento field spell, Memento Mictlan. So yeah, a lot of the time you're always going to have to play at least 2. Just because if you just play 1 and then you link it off and then banish it for the field spell later, you have to use Akihiro to get this back, which just doesn't work. And usually for the combos, because he is high level and you like to pop high levels when the field spell is up, you will usually just summon him and as one of the 3 dumps, dump him as well. So you can then search the field spell and then pop him with some effect, and then you can revive one of the things you dumped. Yeah, some people will play 3 of this. I don't think it's a bad idea, but I don't think it's a good idea either. Like, it's not really that difficult to manage the 2 of these. But I could understand it, I guess, if there's like a lot of Kashtira at your locals. But yeah. Discard. But yeah, discard kind of does everything. Then Memento Twin Dragon, I play 1. You might want to consider playing 2 once again if there's a lot of Kashtira. It's just 2. Yeah, by the way, this guy has 3 Memento monsters for its fusion material. Then Memento Twin Dragon, 2 Memento monsters. On Fusion Summon, this destroys Memento on field or in hand, which this is the only guy that does this. And then you can search 2 Memento monsters from your deck to your hand. And if this Fusion Summoned card is destroyed by either battle or card effect, or the way it's written, yeah, also if it's destroyed by game mechanics, funnily enough, you can special summon a level 6 or lower Memento monster from your graveyard, which just basically means a Memento at a lower level than itself. And as a bonus effect, any monster destroyed by battle with a Memento, as long as this guy is on the field, is banished instead, which actually comes up when your opponent tries to break your board with stuff like Drew's Worm. But yeah, kind of like Gatek, the deck didn't really the deck didn't really make sense until this guy and Fusion were known. You pretty much always want to go through this. It's also pretty important. Like, whenever you can end on Bone Party and Fusion, you kind of want to make this guy on your opponent's turn just to, like, guarantee follow-up. Yeah, good card. Then we have the Super Poly targets. Muddragon and Garura need no introduction. They like, together they cover a lot of just, like, generically getting bodies out of the field. I will say, Muddragon's targeting protection is not that good in this deck, because you go through so many different attributes. I believe 4 in total. Earth, Dark, Light, and 1 Water. Yeah. But yeah, Guru as a draw is always good. And this was kind of the sauce, as people like to call it. Chaos Star Source Dragon. This you can make this with 1 Light or Dark Dragon monster plus any Dragon monster, which... keep note of the fact that the second one doesn't care about attributes. So, I was expecting a lot of Centurion at this event, and my Richard Freitag, the guy who coached me on this deck, he pushed me on this. This breaks the entire Centurion board, because they will pretty much always try to end on Auxilla plus a dragon. So, they either have a setup to make Crimson Dragon, or they already have Blazer on field. This is one of the only... like, Super Polying for this is maybe the only way in the format that you can cleanly deal with Cosmic Blazer Dragon. And to top it off, after you... for every Light Dark you used, you get to pop a card on summon, which means that you can, for example, get rid of the deck lockdown. But yeah, it only came up once, and like it's a match I probably could have won without it, but yeah, like I ended up kind of dodging Centurion, which yeah. So yeah, I do think this card is crazy. It just didn't really come up that often for me. And then we have the last fusion, which kind of is both engine and a super poly target. Baphomet, the mythical king of phantom beasts. This is any combination of beast, fiend, and illusion, as long as they're different, as the two materials are different types. On summon, this sends a beast, fiend, or illusion from deck to graveyard, and during the opponent's turn, you can banish this from your graveyard to special summon a beast, fiend, or illusion from your banish pile. So this is largely for Diabells and Nightmare Griffin stuff, but it is notable that against Fiendsmith Snake Eyes, this is a valid super poly for Ilya Sylvia plus Desiree, which is a huge push. But yeah, like, didn't come up because it seems like in Belgium everyone prefers the Fire King version of Snake Eyes by far. Yeah, then let's go through the Fiendsmith stuff. So, Necroquip, Requiem, Moon, and Caesar. And, well, this is kind of in between. You play this even if you don't play Fiendsmith, I think, in this deck. So, these cards don't really need any introduction. The main reason I play these is largely because of this. The aforementioned reason of you can often make this guy before even committing to Memento Fusion. So you check both Nip and Retaliating Sea. And just there's also like just this thing where people will play around you as if you're playing Desiree and as if you're playing the three engravers, which actually ended up winning me my final match because my opponent had an Ulcanix and refused to play into Caesar with it. Because they were too terrified of me like detaching the engraver and then just linking off for a sequence and making a Desiree to check even more. Although I do think I probably would have won that game regardless, but yeah, it's a big package, but the value is obviously insane. And then for the links, SP Little Knights, once again a card that needs no introduction. Not gonna go over the effects. It is pretty notable in this deck in general though, because the main if you're not really like popping off that hard, you always want to end on this because no matter what happens to the rest of your board, as long as Little Knight and Combined Creation are on field and can tag out to dodge Nip, it doesn't really matter what happens to like the rest of your board. Like sometimes you can genuinely just let Nip resolve. It goes like it really doesn't matter as long as the Memento portion survives. Some people play two of this, I guess, inspired because like the card kind of functions similar to like how it does in Rescue Ace, but I think the main reason you played more in Rescue Ace anyway was just because that deck had no back row interaction and this deck shits on back row. And then the final two links, Cross Sheep and Nightmare Griffin. These two go kind of hand in hand. Cross Sheep is just another way of just upping your link bodies a bit more, and with the combos with Mythical Baphomet, this can be the beast, so you don't have to shuffle back any mementos. Nightmare Griffin, I guess this card doesn't come up that often, so I should probably like explain the effect. 2+ monster with different names. If it's link summoned, you can discard a card, then target a spell trap in your graveyard, set it to your field, but cannot be activated this turn. And if it was co-linked, when this card was activated, you can draw a card. And then it also additionally has a floodgate, where special monster on the field cannot activate their effects unless they're linked. So usually, you do cross shape stuff, so you can make this guy. You reset a spell trap if possible, and then you link off into sequence, and then you use sequence effect to put back Cross Sheep and any fiend, which often will be Moon of a Close Heaven, to make Mythical Baphomet. And then Mythical Baphomet and sequence can be linked off to banish Nightmare Griffin in your graveyard, and then on your opponent's turn, You can banish Mythical Baphomet at any point to summon Griffin to the field and floodgate him. That's the basic idea of this. I didn't do it that much, or rather, like I got to this point pretty often, but people usually gave up beforehand because they just saw what was coming. I do think this is something you should play, because there's like quite a few matchups that don't really care about removal, like you know, the likes of Chimera and Branded, where if you're, you know, I'm not maining Cranium Burst, so having this game 1 is a really huge necessary blowout, I feel. Yeah, that was the extra deck. And now let's go over the side deck. And this is probably, I think this is probably like the main star of the deck. Or rather, the thing that brought me the most victories. Milcharmy Perulia. Don't believe people who tell you that Fuel Loss has Power Creep discards. The entire format like kind of warped around Fuel Loss to a point where this card actually gets the same value usually. And I also feel like the fact that you can shotgun this compared to Fuel Loss, just it feels a lot easier to use, I guess you could say. Because people usually have ways to respect Fool Laws. If you shotgun it, you have to like chain it and have to play into talents, trust, etc. Whereas with this card, you can, I mean, you're still playing into trust, but not talents. And they like most contingency plans for Fool Laws can sometimes end on no draws. There's basically no contingency plans for Perulia that don't give you at least one draw unless they use like 3 or 4 cards in their hands. Yeah. Really good cards. Then, a card I wish I played 3 of, Retaliating Sea. For people not in the know, when your opponent activates a spell card that includes an effect that special summons a monster, as a quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if it's summoned this way, you can it applies a continuous Macrocosmos effect, so everything gets banished instead. I wasn't gonna play this until Richard told me to, because it obviously has a bit of an anti-synergy with this deck. Like it's not crazy hard to out, but it can sometimes make the lines pretty awkward. But this card has way too much value into Azamina. In case you don't know, if your opponent adds Hallowed Azamina and then activates it to do the fusion summon of an Azamina monster, if you chain this, they still have to send a Sinful Spoils, but since it gets banished, the conjunction doesn't work out, and the monster isn't fusion summoned, so you immediately permanently get rid of Hallowed Azamina, you get rid of one of the Sinful Spoils, and now they are stuck with this monster they're like stuck with this monster on field that blocks any other play they can do. So in practice, I often found that my opponent just outed it for me. Which, like, you can make like an argument that some players will just like let this sit and try to like screw you over by locking you under your own floodgate, but I mean, you can also just like tribute summon Tatsuno Toshiga over it, and it's basically full combo. But yeah, I kind of wanted to play 3 of this, but the extra deck's really tight. Then we have, I didn't order this, 3 Triple Tactics Trust, 2 D Barrier, 1 DDG, and a Talents. So one of the things I expected was there to be a lot of tempi. So I really wanted to have a ways to not just insta lose to shifter, hence trust into D barrier. I probably should have played 3D barrier, but I really liked trust into DDG as well. Similar to like Retaliating Sea, this you might think like, oh, you're banishing your own stuff, but banished stuff isn't gone forever anymore, and your opponent is going to struggle infinitely more under this than you once your board is set up. And Talents is just for when I felt like trust into Talents was actually like a good breaking strategy. Talents didn't really do that much. It might actually be cuttable. And then there can be only one. It's basically another Temp I Hate card that just has more application into other decks as well. Obviously, if they have Shifter Lightning Storm, you're dead anyway, but yeah. And Cranium Burst, I didn't cite this in a single time. I feel like I'm just kind of desperately really holding on to the idea that this gives you a good board under Full Loss, but you have a good board under Full Loss without this as well, so I'm very close to cutting it, but yeah, I don't know. Card sucks. And then finally, Diabells. If there's any card I would ban from this deck, I generally think it's this one. So basically, it applies one-sided anti-spell, kind of. So your opponent has to set spell traps before activating them, and when a spell trap is set on the field, you can target 2 cards on the field, including one you control, and destroy them. This deck has like a million ways to generically pop spell and traps. So like, obviously herself, which also the fact that you can destroy like just one of your own monsters and suddenly your Memento Fusion is live during their turn. But also, Darkblade on summon can pop a spell trap. Then you also have Creation King. That also lets you pop. If you're on Guardian Chimera, that also pops. And at that point, like, your opponent is like, with these 3 alone, your opponent is like down 3 of their cards that they were forced to set. Quick play decks just stop functioning entirely. So like, okay, I'm just gonna have a loss for it. Just like, this is like the main reason why going first, you pretty much never lose. Like, breakers just don't work against it. The engine plays pretty damn well into hand traps. If you want an answer for breakers, I think Herald and Miragelight is ass. I think Desiree is ass. This is absolutely the way to go. Like, the only way people play through your boards is with stuff like Sphere Mode, and even then, it's not guaranteed if you have like a Memento monster in hand. Like, yeah, just absolutely the MVP. I need to get a QCR of this. Yeah. So that was deck. Oh yeah, also one more thing. This can summon itself if there's a Sinful Spoils on either graveyard. This actually happened in the finals, and I actually kind of just played Diabell's control for a bit and actually won that way. But yeah. Anything else? Suppose shoutouts. Shoutouts to Richard Freitag. I saw that he got #1 on Dueling Book with Memento. I immediately tried to get a coaching session with him, and I really learned a lot of very important concepts from him that really paid off during the regional. He does coaching. I'll leave a link to his Twitter, so you can see for yourself if you want it. He also just has a spreadsheet for fairly cheap. Then shoutouts to my boys of Team Hermelijn. They really helped me grow a lot as a player. So yeah, shoutouts to Dennis, shoutouts to Kim, shoutouts to Max. Then shoutouts to Celine Courts. No one will know who I'm talking about, but you guys know who you are. You're the best. And oh yeah, shoutouts to Casper. When I picked this deck up, he really helped me just keep my enthusiasm up for the deck. I probably would not have gotten this far without him, even though he has dropped the deck, but he'll return one day. And and shoutouts to Hoff. You know who you are. So I guess that's it. So thanks for listening to my rambling, and I'll see you next time.